Welcome to Living the Reiki Life podcast. You are here with Christy and Amanda coming at you from the prairies in Saskatchewan, Canada. The podcast is going to be about Reiki, our Reiki journeys, energy healing, and other healing modalities. We are going to interview some of our gurus and cover a vast majority of topics that we find interesting, and hopefully you do too. Welcome back to episode 4.
Yeah, episode 4 already. I can't believe that. And over 100 downloads. So I think that's something to celebrate.
Definitely. Thank you so much for your support. We absolutely love it.
Yes.
We wanted to just get you up to date on what we did, because we didn't actually really post about what we were doing with our inner child, but definitely thought we would share. So I'll go first, Christy. So my son, he's 11 months old. He's been doing this motorboat noise with his lips. I don't really want to do it, to be honest, but it's really silly and it sounds hilarious. And so we were at the grocery store and he is just motorboating away there. And I just decided to join him. So I just started making the little noise with him and he's just loving it. We're both laughing. And I just thought, what a great way just to bring back that innocent play of childhood and just letting anything go. It was super funny and I loved it. I've been really trying to get on the floor and really play with my son and just get on his level in a really sweet way. I love it.
I love that too, because it's like you're in that present moment. And who cares what anybody thinks about you? It's like you and your son having a moment.
Totally. And I'm here for my son only, not the person next to me in the aisle.
Yeah, and who cares? And they probably, if I seen somebody doing that in the grocery store, that would make me smile.
Yeah. It was really funny, actually.
That's so cute.
And how about you?
Spending time with I call them my niece and nephew, my best friend's 2 kids, and just watching them play and just again live in that present moment. That is their main goal of the day. How much fun can I have? I was like, why can't I embrace that? And we're sitting on the grass, and you used to play with the grass, and she's digging up all the grass in her hand, and then I turn around and she shoves all the grass in my purse, and I was just like, what are you doing? It's you little monkey, at first I was like, oh man, that's gonna take me forever to get out of there. Then I just laugh about it, because it's just that fun and that play and just joking around. I need more of that in my life, because that's what really lights you up and you forget about everything else.
Yeah, you don't take life so seriously.
Yeah.
Big purse full of grass.
Yeah.
So funny. Do you remember as a kid, I used to love pulling up the grass and then putting it on my legs.
Yeah, I did that too.
Sprinkling it everywhere. Yeah.
Yep. Yeah, if we're playing baseball in gym, and I'd be sitting in the field pulling out the grass and playing with the dandelions.
Right? I used to make little dirt hills when I was oh God, so funny. Yeah, I love it. That's so good. And that just really warms me, actually.
Yeah.
Okay, so today we're actually going to get right into our episode, because it is a little bit longer than our regular time length. So today we are interviewing Rhonda. Rhonda has been practicing angel readings for over 5 years now, growing up knowing she was different and finally feeling the push from spirit to really step into her full gifts and potential. Rhonda delivers healing on many levels by her card readings and channeling messages from past loved ones and the Archangels. We are truly honored to speak with Rhonda, as she's been an important person to us in our lives and really helped us along our journeys.
So we met Rhonda 5 years ago, and that's when the world of spirit opened up for all of us looking back. And it's crazy to see how far we've come and what we've gone through to get to where we are now. So that was something interesting to sit and think about. And we met Rhonda actually through our good friend Janice. So they're sisters. And Rhonda did a card reading at Janice's birthday one year, and it was a lot of fun. And looking back, a lot of the things that she said to people through her card readings has come true. So it just shows how special of a reader she is. And it was so much fun to sit down with her, and the conversation just flowed, and we learned so much about her, and we really hope you enjoy it.
Absolutely. And we are going to link in the show notes where you can contact Rhonda if you want an angel card reading, and the link to her angel book on Amazon. We'll put that in the show notes as well if you want to start exploring that with yourself and connection to the angels. All right, well, enjoy, and we will see you next episode.
Ciao.
Thanks so much for doing this
You're
morning.
more than welcome. Thank you for the invite.
Yes, you were definitely a person that we've both had such great experience with. Definitely starting out, you were such a key player for me, and I know Christy as well. And so you were like one of the first people we knew we wanted to interview and just, get your name out there for other people who would love a mediumship reading, because you're so talented at that.
Well,
so we're
you.
just going to jump right into some questions. So we just wanted to start with, tell us about your childhood and how you first learned you could communicate with spirit.
It was a story that was kind of told to me. I was always very intuitive when I was younger. But the story was, so my grandfather on my dad's side passed away when my dad was 16. So I've never met my grandpa in the physical form. And I don't know, I was about 3 or 4, and I was like looking through pictures, and I said, oh, he texts me in every night. And, my dad said, he kind of looked at my mom. He's like, well, that can't happen. He's not here, right? So that was the story that was told for me, because I was very adamant that he would come. Or, so they thought, well, they're not going to fight it or whatever, right? But then I always felt very not cautious, like they say a lot of people that have mediumship skills that are very open tend to have anxiety and worry. And I was a very anxious child and everything. So as I kind of started more into it, and that when I mean into it, like I didn't realize what was going on with me. I knew I could see spirit, but I didn't know a word for it. And that was mediumship, right? So for me, I've always then avoided like a lot of places with a lot of people in it, because I would get panic attacks. I would get like just an sense of overwhelm. So, and that's kind of how it all started for me. But I was also very in tune with the angelic world, and that's where majority of my talents lie. Like I grew up in a very religious, we grew up in a Catholic setting or whatever, and faith was important to us. But from there, like I spent a lot of time with my grandmother. She taught me how to play the rosary. And so I was very connected in a spiritual sense, but I wouldn't consider myself religious, even though I do follow the Catholic faith. But there's a lot of things that I don't agree with in Catholicism. But I do consider myself more spiritual than religious, but with the Catholic upbringing.
I think a lot of us can relate to that.
Yeah.
I know I personally grew up like that as well, and the same thing, I would consider myself more spiritual than like Catholic.
Yeah.
So can I ask then, Rhonda, so you're connected to the angels, so what kind of brought you forward then with like getting involved with the angels and taking it to like a step further?
Okay, so with that, like I said, I've always been very connected. A lot of people probably thought I was going to be a nun when it actually came to but really it wasn't. I can't remember the year. It was probably about 5, maybe 6 years ago. I won a class. Well, first of all, I went to the Spirit Body Soul Expo that was in Saskatoon, and I kind of gone for about 2 or 3 years. I was always like, I knew I was very intuitive and could speak, or like I just knew things that it was very, for me, hard to explain. And I was always a little bit hesitant with getting a reading or anything. Didn't even, but I would have people come up to me and going, like, stuff. Like, you're very intuitive. And I kind of sheepishly, I was like, yeah, I know, like, but from then what happened was I always liked going to the, what you call it, like the speakers at those events. So I was like sitting there, and a lady named Cindy Smith was talking about the angels. And I said, that's more my speed than a typical psychic reading. And then, so what happened from there is she was talking about this course. It was called the Angels Empowerment Practitioners course. And I was sitting there and she was talking about it. And I'm like, geez, I would like to do that. It wasn't even so much necessarily about the angels, but I was looking at going into social work or thinking about social work. I thought, man, a lot of the techniques that she was talking about, I thought, oh, that could be very valuable. So all of a sudden, I hear an inner voice saying, take time off of work for it. So I thought, well, it's over the summer. And at that time, I was working also at the theater. They're like, no, the theater. So I did, or so I was thinking, okay. So all of a sudden, the price comes up. It's $888. Now, on EA salary, and like, I'm going, I can't afford this, especially like with only 3 months to go. Like, it'd be something I would save up for to do. But I was like, whatever. So I took the time off work. I booked those days off, but I never kind of signed up for the course because I knew, like, how do I pay for it? But I thought, whatever. So then what happened was, so the expo was in April, and then so I signed up for her email, and then all of a sudden in late June, early July, she comes out with an email saying that the winners were unable to take the course. So she was putting it out there, like it was kind of like a email lottery type thing. And if you were the 8th and 10th person or something, to write in the subject line, I love angels. So I did. And then 2 days later, I get an email saying, congratulations, you won the course.
No way.
Yeah. So I was like, oh, wow, that's kind of cool. So during the course, so like I said, the course was very, I want to say, it changed the trajectory in a lot of ways because I knew I was very intuitive. But during the course, it was almost it was almost like here are a lot of answers that are on questions. So you have a puzzle, right? And it's mostly completed, but then you have aspects. It's like, oh, well, this is a puzzle piece here, and it kind of completes your puzzle. And that's how I felt with it. It was like, oh, okay. So during the course, over the 4 days, I think it was, a lot of aha moments, light bulb moments came off. So then what happened was it came down to, she was talking about getting certified. So to get your certification, to kind of requirements of this. So part of it is doing 20 readings to complete the course. And I'm like, I don't even know 20 people. How am I going to get 20 readings done? So, like, as soon as she was kind of talking about it, I was like, I'm not going to know 20 people, so I'm not even going to, bother with it. And at that time is I'm shy. I don't like asking people to do things, especially when it's outside their comfort zone. So what happened during all of a sudden, it was almost like I got a scolding. So a lot of people think the angels are very angelic, nice or whatever, but they can be a little aggressive at times. So so during that, Michael comes into me and he goes, we wouldn't have given you this class if you weren't going to do something with it. So then I paid attention because I was like, oh, because literally everything came up to it, like even from telling me to take time off to ending up getting the class for free on. So I was like, oh, okay. So he literally laid out the game plan for me because I didn't even own a deck of cards. Like I didn't know how to read cards. I didn't know, like, because a lot of my knowing was just more like a channel than it was anything. And still to this day, the cards are more for clients than really myself, because I'll just, a lot of times you'll be able to give them a story and a picture. But so I said, well, how am I going to get 20 people? He goes, you're going to have to use Facebook. No, I'm not a big fan of Facebook, never have been. I personally still don't like it, but for the purpose of business, you just have to use it. So he said, you're going to have to post twice. I'll let you know when to post. And he says, you're going to have to ask 2 people in person. And he told me which 2. And he said, the only reason why you're going to have to ask those 2 is they were not either on Facebook or they're not going to see the post. So I was like, okay. So again, it's all about trust, right? Like that's a big thing with Reiki or any type of modality is trusting the process. So I put it out on Facebook. And I was planning a trip to Prince Edward Islands at that time. So I put it out on Facebook to say, hey, I took this Angels and Practitioners course. If you're interested in a reading, contact me. And from there, I think I got just about half of it. So I like, okay, that's neat. And then, so I went on my Prince Edward Island trip. And then a few days after I got back, I heard post again. Well, I got my 20 that I never thought I would get. I got it from people that I didn't think even were interested in a reading. So I was like, oh, okay. So in that regard, it all lined up very much in alignment. And even while I was in Prince Edward Island, like Michael told me I had to quit my theater job. And I'm like, I cannot afford to quit my theater job. Like I need income, so, but as it turned out, I just had to laugh. Like I was going to end up losing my job anyway, or I would have basically had to quit because they were reshifting hours and trying something new. That it would have conflicted my other schedule. But what was interesting is the next 3 weeks when I got back, I was getting on-call shifts. And I was like, okay, because he said, okay, you don't have to quit your job, and you'll get one thing a week or whatever. But they were clearly putting obstacles in the way where it's like, hey, I need to quit. So that part, that's how it came to be with this. The mediumship aspect of it was because is when Michael told me he wanted me. Actually, it was that Gabriel that told me that they wanted me to focus on mediumship, and I was like, I said, so at this point, I knew I could talk to spirit from the other side. Now, with that being said, so my go-to angel that I was always connected the most with was Archangel Gabriel. So sometimes what you'll notice when I talk about him is sometimes I'll say Gabriel and sometimes I'll say Gabriel. So I'm just going to preference that because he's known as kind of the twin flame Gabriel. So he comes in both forms. I do apologize when I talk to him about that way because you will probably see me flipping back and forth, and that's just because of the energy he's bringing.
Neat. I didn't realize that he was the twin flame angel.
Yeah. So he has both the male energy and the female energy. So, like I said, that's how come I kind of flip back and forth. But when it comes to the mediumship portion of it, is like I said, I wasn't really interested in giving people mediumship readings. I was like, I'm not really a big fan of death. Not that anybody is, but so like, and this kind of goes back to the church when I was altar serving, because I felt energy so differently, it affected me quite differently, and it was really hard to explain because I could see the body, but I could also see the spirit lifting out of the body, essentially, right? So it freaked me out. So I was like, no, I don't need to do that. But what ended up happening was when Michael told me that, and I'm like, no, thank you. Like Michael and Gabriel told me, I'm like, no, thank you, because I'm not interested in it at all. Like, and he says, well, he says, you're going to use mediumship as healing. And then that kind of piqued my interest a little bit. And I was like, well, how so? And he said, because people need closure in it. And he goes, and I want to show you how we're bringing you up into this decision. So randomly, by nature, I'm a high school EA. Well, I got pulled from the high school in an elementary school. Now I'm working with grade 11s and grade 12s typically. All of a sudden, I get yanked, and I'm thrown into a grade 1 kindergarten, grade 1, grade 2 classroom. So I was like, what? Like, I was just like all over the place. So I always say I was kind of outed by a 6-year-old as far as the mediumship, because I really didn't tell anybody that I was a medium. So anyway, unfortunately, her mom had passed away unexpectedly, and kind of something that just shouldn't have happened, like typically, that she passed away from, but it was nobody's fault. It's just they didn't catch all the like mucus after giving birth, the placenta, so it got plugged up and she ended up passing away. So this little girl, she very open, and one day she just kind of took my hand and she said, my mom said I can talk to you about me seeing her. And I'm like, and I was like, no, like I didn't say that, but I was like, why? Because I didn't want to shut her down, because I didn't want her to be like, that she's crazy for seeing her mom. But what was happening is that she would be telling people that she could see her mom, feel her mom, and they're like, no, she can't, honey, and it was upsetting a bunch of people around her that, she was talking to her mom as if she's like right there. So I kind of told her that it's okay that you see her. Adults might get upset, and that's just because they're hurting. But if you want to talk to me anytime about your mom or what she says, you can come talk to me. And she's like, yeah, that's pretty much what she said. So I was like, okay, you didn't think anything of it, right? And then, so going back to the course, Michael said, well, okay, do you remember what she gave you for Valentine's Day? And I said, well, yeah, she gave me a rose. It was a plastic rose, but it was a rose. And they're like, okay, so with this rose, what does that usually signify for you? Well, for me, it's the rosary. I grew up and prayed the rosary. And then they're like, okay. And then so from the rosary, who gave Mary the rosary? And I said, well, it was Archangel Gabriel. Yeah. And then they're like, who's the girl's name that gave you the rose? The girl's name was Gabby. And that's how they said. So when we talk about like divine timing and everything, he said the angels all put that in that way, because they said, well, that's how we wanted to let you know that you needed the mediumship in your reading. So I reluctantly agreed to it. And I said, okay, I only want to do mediumship if there's going to be a healing component to it. So during that course, so a lot of times with a session with me is, a lot of times it's not just mediumship reading. There's usually an angel mediumship that comes through. But during the course of the practitioners, because Michael wanted to show me what it was going to look like, is all of a sudden I'll get spirit coming through during an angel reading. And that's kind of how traditionally it does happen. The more I'm getting used to it, I do mediumship readings, but Michael is very protective in the sense, usually it's a combined thing, because I'll usually ask in my process, if spirit does come through, do you want to know when they come through or not? And that's usually how that happens with myself in the readings. But with that, I do tend to get, because of the healing aspect of it, I do tend to see a lot of the tragedy in it. Like I do see a lot of suicides.
So Rhonda, when you're in like a situation, do you do anything to prepare yourself ahead of time to like protect your energy? Like you going in there, like you're probably going to feel stuff and it might be uncomfortable. So like, what do you do to kind of set yourself up so like nothing can kind of get in your field and really attach?
What I do is I've placed what's called a rainbow shield around me. So what that does, with a vacuum in it. So what that does, it protects my aura and my energy. And so with the rainbow shield is, whatever I need protection, it will change color. So like if I need the white protection, it switches to more of the white. If I need love, it switches kind of to the pink. So that's usually what I do, and I find that usually does help me. Now, and anybody can do it, like especially if you do pick up a lot of energy, you just ask to place a rainbow shield around your aura with a vacuum in it. The key is, though, you have to be in love and light with yourself. So what that does is anything that you're supposed to receive, you'll still receive, and anything that you're not supposed to pick up, well, it's almost like bounces away. But if you're finding that you're miserable and you place the shield on while you're miserable, you're going to still feel that negative energy that people are sending your way. So that's kind of the key piece. But so the shield only does typically last for 12 hours. But if you're highly empathic, like I am, the shield majority of the times will only last between 4 to 6 hours, maybe 8, depending on it. So if you like say place your shield on and it's like, oh, okay, so here's my shield, and I was feeling great, and all of a sudden I'm getting like all these kind of negative stuff hitting me, and I'm like, that's when I know I have to reshield because of that. It's just breaking down.
So
That's great awareness.
That is great awareness. So do you try to like hone in on like a good feeling memory, or just kind of try to brush the negative away so you can place the shield back on if you find yourself kind of getting dark and
I try to go to my happy place. Like usually like when I shield, it's just so it does raise my vibration. But a lot of times it'll be like, oh, your shield's up or not done. But and those people, like, because there's always going to be like critics or naysayers or whatever. But one time when I kind of learned about the shielding, I'm like, I want to see if this actually works. So I was working with a student who regularly told me to like F off quite a bit, right? And I don't take it personally because this is just the type of kids I work with, right? Like there's a time and place or whatever. But anyway, so I was like, and she was like frequently telling me to do this, right? So I'm like, I wonder why this is happening. Now so what was interesting is I would shield myself in the morning, but by the time I came to her, this is 4th period, right? So my shield has been kind of depleted, and I would forget to re-shield. So then the one day it was like I remembered to shield myself, and all of a sudden I come over, expecting her to tell me to F off. And these were, I wish I had it recorded because she goes to me, I want to be mean to you and tell you where to go, but I can't. And I just started laughing, I tried not to laugh at her face, but I just started chuckling because I knew it was working. Like she literally could not tell me to F off.
So funny. I don't know why I find this so funny, Rhonda. It's just like I can't imagine someone like wanting to say that to you. Like, but I guess you're a kid, right? There's no.
Yeah, and she had that, like, that was part of her disorder. What it wasn't Tourette's, but that was just part of her disorder. So like that's what I mean. Like I knew it wasn't like personal or nothing, but yeah, I just thought, okay, let's just see if this actually works. So and that's where like with your listeners, like that's just how easy it is just placing the shield. And like I'll place the shield around my car. I'll play like so especially if I'm going out into the like say country or on the highway, I'll ask Ariel and Michael to protect my surroundings and then place the shield on my car.
That's a great idea.
And even sometimes my tires, so if a foreign object or whatever hits it or doesn't hit it.
I heard a really good story from a lady. She asked Archangel Michael to like put a shield or protection around her house. And like she does that regularly. And like I think it was that evening, I think it was like 3 houses on her block got vandalized and hers was completely left alone. And it was like both neighbors and not her house. Yeah, it's almost like it acts like an invisible, it almost acts like an invisible shield. And like actually that's the same with Cindy Smith. She said like that's exactly who I was referencing actually. Oh really? Yeah. Well, that's funny because she also talked about her vehicle too. Yeah. Her husband's vehicle got broken into and not much there. And she had change. She said, like, I had money in like, and it wasn't hiding. And it was as if they didn't see it. Yeah, I know. But
it's one of those things that is easily to taken for granted if you don't shield your vehicles or your house on a regular basis. You know, because sometimes you'll be like, oh, I forgot. And then you're like, oh, why did that happen?
Yeah.
So it's just like one of those things that you kind of have to do almost faithfully, but you're so grateful when it does happen.
Yeah,
But
it's like that spiritual maintenance, like brushing your teeth. You just got to keep doing it.
Yeah.
And it's funny. I remember when I first met you, Amanda and I were working together in like a not so great office environment. And I remember you told me to put up that rainbow shield around me so that one girl her energy wouldn't be affecting me as much.
Yeah.
And it definitely worked.
It did. Hey, yeah.
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 When I remembered.
Yeah.
Right.
That's just it. And those are the clues. It's like where you're thinking. It's like, and that was like even me with that girl. Like I never thought, and like that's when I realized that the shield for me doesn't typically last as long. But I do find the more empathetic you are, the longer or the quicker your shield will deplete. But that's where it's just like, you know, especially when you're having a great day and all of a sudden you're getting like those boosts. It's like, okay, what's happening? It's like, and then you're thinking back, it's like, oh, I need to re-shield.
Yeah.
You know,
That's
it's
right.
really funny with this like line of work and just being in the space. There's no manual. So it's just like,
No.
you figured that out, you know, and that's anyone else on this journey wondering how to navigate. You honestly figure it out. And like,
Yeah.
you got that. Now you can share it with us and to give us some tips. You're finding, why am I always getting in that lull? Maybe you need to start putting up a shield and just.
And that's exactly it, right? And like I know, like even when I kind of go out in public, like because I'm a traditional person in the sense, because I tend to go to the same places over and over again because I know it's safe. Like so, an example, usually with restaurants, I kind of need like a wall or a space. Like I can't be sitting at a table in the middle of a restaurant because I will just get assaulted. Because I find like with spirit, they like to come through the back to the front. Where I almost feel like that physical barrier for me is what I need.
I agree with that. I feel like a lot of people, I think it's like a feng shui thing too, right? Like you don't like it when someone can just come up behind you. And I know, Christy, you've had a lot of experience with spirit coming up behind you as well.
Yeah.
It does feel better if you have a wall or something that you're up against. Yeah. I always try to choose that spot too. And I feel like most people, even if they unknowingly, they always try to choose that spot as well. They like to see, they don't like anything coming up behind them.
Yeah. Yeah. So I tend to, like I said, like usually like if I go to Boston Pizza on Boychuk, they know where I like, you know.
That's awesome.
You know, so like usually like with restaurants that I go to, I'm going to the same places over and over because I know it's safe and I know it's not like stupid busy and that's usually kind of how I kind of also cope out being in public is I kind of know what times to kind of go out when I need to like do my errands or I'm pretty structured in that. Like concerts a lot of time for me is like a no-go. There's just too much energy and too many people bring their dead people with them.
Yes, they do. Oh my God.
So if for some reason I do happen, like an example, I love Paul Brandt. And traditionally Paul Brandt, it goes to Centennial. Well, I guess, what is it now? I still call it Centennial Auditorium.
Oh, TCU, yeah.
TCU place. So that venue is traditionally about the size of venue that I can go to, but there again, I'm very picky of where I sit. Like I can't be in the middle. I need to be at a side. So if I'm planning on going to a concert or anything like that, I pick those. I'll buy my tickets early so I can actually physically pick my seat. But the last time Paul Brandt came, I phoned everybody up. I asked, hey, do you want to go or whatever? And because I'm assuming he's going to TCU Place, like where he normally goes. This time he goes to Sask Place or whatever it is now. I'm kind of dating myself here. I guess at Pascal Center or whatever. And I was like, are you kidding me? So everybody's buying their ticket. Now I'm committed to going. But I ended up like, I'm going, okay, where's the least? Where am I? So I picked an aisle seat, but I picked it at the circle. Like, so even though somebody can come up, it felt like a little bit of a barrier because I didn't have all these other people around me. But now before I check concerts or whatever, I'm making sure it's at TCU Place and not Pascal Center.
It's just things like we have to think of, like the average person just goes online, picks tickets, hey, let's go have fun. But it's like I'm in the same boat as you. I have to think of all these different things that a lot of people wouldn't even think of. And like Troy and I love going to sporting events. Like we like going to rush games, rider games, baseball
and that's
games.
High energy.
Oh yeah, it's intense. And honestly, what actually helps me, it's probably not the right thing to do, but like a beer like just numbs it, shuts it all down. And so I just sit there, have my beer, and I'm like, I don't care about anyone's dead relatives right now. Leave me alone. I want to be a human. I want to have fun.
Yeah.
Should we move on to like some of these questions, Christy?
Yeah.
We're just on such a roll. It's great.
Yeah, because I wanted to ask you, Rhonda, about like the Archangels. So of course we all know who they are. We work with them. But if someone has no idea who the Archangels are, like how would you explain that to them?
So the Archangels each kind of carry their own specialty or whatever, but the names really are more for us than it is for them. So if you, for some reason, let's just say you wanted communication, but you're like, oh, I don't know who the Archangel Gabriel, right? And just say, I need the angel of communication. So it's kind of whatever the problem or the issue that you want with, just name the issue instead of the actual archangel. Now, if you know them, that's great. But the angel, like even if, let's just say, we'll use Gabriel for an example, but say for some reason he thought because you're going into conflict with somebody, he's probably going to send Raguel over himself because Raguel is for conflict resolution, right? So he's probably going to be able to be more of assistance than Gabriel will be, right? So the names really aren't as important. Like it just helps us as an identifier. It was interesting is I had just completed a journal actually for people who want to communicate with their archangels and get like up close and personal with them. And it's been going, a lot of people have been really enjoying the journal because I put in there how to communicate them and building that relationships with them. So in that regard, like people have been doing it that I've even like created a class around. This is the 1 hour class, but you get up close and personal with the angels because all the different angels have different vibrations. So it's just like, oh, okay.
I love that.
Yeah. So just to clarify, Rhonda, so archangels specifically carry a higher vibration. Like they're not just, I don't want to say just regular angels.
Right. Yes, they do. They carry a higher vibration than let's just say like your guardian angel. So your guardian angels. So the reason why the archangels carry a higher vibration is because they're kind of more for everyone, right? Like anybody can call on them. But your guardian angels are with you. Like they were gifted to you. So they tend to be of a little bit lower vibration because they're more intimate with yourself. Now you can so traditionally you're kind of gifted about 2 to 3 guardian angels at birth, but you can collect more guardian angels along the way. Now, with guardian angels and archangels, with the exception of Metatron and Soundathon, they've never been in human form. Okay, so, and how, with the angels, how you know that if they happen in human form, they end with on. So Metatron, Soundathon are kind of the two. So if you do come across that, that's how you know they were kind of in angelic form or human form. So a lot of people will assume because of a loved one that passed on that they're considered guardian angels. No, they're guardian spirits.
Right.
Because they were in human form. And then they may come to you. So you may or may not have met them in, physical form. An example would be with my grandfather, right? Because I've never physically knew him, but he comes to me actually quite a lot.
And he would be considered a guardian angel for you?
He would be considered a guardian spirit.
Spirit, right? Because he lived body form.
Yeah.
Oh, I like that.
Yeah. So that's how you kind of differentiate what a guardian angel is and a guardian spirit. Because a lot of people assume that when a person crosses over, that they become your guardian angel. And that's not politically correct, but they're not going to get offended if you call somebody they're your guardian angel. But,
yeah, they're not going to get mad at you.
Yeah.
So this is kind of interesting. I just thought of this. So does your soul have guardian angels then? So if you reincarnate and into your past lives, is this guardian angel with you for all of those existences?
Yes.
That's neat. So they've been with you the whole ride.
Yeah.
That's
great.
Even
you and Christy have been together at least past 3 lives.
Yeah. We definitely believe that. Yeah. We know we have a soul connection. Just the way we easily vibe.
Yeah. Well, and that's actually with this one friend that I had, and he was really kind of the first person that, so to speak, came out to spiritually, was my friend Kirk he's from Saskatoon, but he lives in Toronto. And I actually never met him until we worked at the theater. But when I saw him, I'm like, I knew you from another lifetime. And the stories he would tell, and I would get goosebumps because I'm like, that's me. And as soon as I saw him, I'm like, I have met you before.
Yeah.
And now we're
knowing.
Yeah. And now we're the, best of friends, but we're the type of friends, and talk about energetically. I will phone him randomly and going, hey, what's going on? Something, sometimes hates it, not gonna lie. But no, I say that jokingly, but even though he's in Toronto, I can feel when he's happy, and I can feel when hey, something's off here. That's just how much connected that we are. And that's vice versa, right? He does the same thing. So yeah, it's just really interesting in that regard.
Yeah, that's really nice. Rhonda, you mentioned you do angel card readings.
Yeah.
You do that more than you do channeling, and you kind of do that more for the customer. Do any of them ever ask you about tarot? Can you kind of explain the difference between what angel card readings would be as opposed to tarot? Because I know when you and I first started, Rhonda's actually the one who taught me how to read angel cards. And then I actually moved into tarot. I'm glad you didn't tell me to start with tarot because it is way more extensive. But now it's just naturally
Yeah. So tarot is more, okay. So angels are love and light, and with an angel card, there is no set rules, no kind of what I want to say, like structure. And I don't want to say with the angel cards, because it works a little bit different with me, is that angel cards are traditionally the angels are giving you the message. So like, even for an example, if you're doing an angel card reading and you're using a fairy deck, it's still the angels that are giving you the message, right? Now, with a fairy deck, though, you can call in the fairies if you choose to, but if you're coming it doesn't really matter what deck I'm using. With tarot, you're using so you're using angels, Mother Earth, divine. You're it's more encompassing. Also, they tend sometimes a little bit more, not that the angels can't be blunt, because they definitely can. But there's a little more, I don't want to say fear, because it's not really fear. It's a little more direct. And the difference is with the tarot, it doesn't matter what tarot deck essentially you pick up, it's the same.
Right, it is.
You can get different messages from that one card, but the graphics might be different, but you still have the same four with them.
Yeah.
Some people gravitate towards tarot naturally, I find there's a little bit more of a science to tarot, right? Like, because if it's upside down, it's a different meaning than if it's right side up. Like, I know with angel cards, like, some people use patterns, and I think tarot's kind of the same. Like, I know a little bit about tarot. I just don't usually typically know a whole lot about tarot, but to me, those are kind of the main differences. But also, for clearance reasons, angel readings are, I want to say, a little more interactive. So this is kind of one of the premises with an angel reading that a lot of people, because typically like a psychic reading or tarot, they're kind of more future based, and a lot of people are saying with interactions, how do I want to say it? They don't really allow you to ask questions, or a lot of people assume that you're just going to give them all the answers. Where an angel reading is, I am going to ask you questions. It's either for clarification, for redirection, because the angels are, even though they might be a little bit futuristic, but they want to let you know what's happening now and what blocks do we need to get rid of, or something that's preventing you from moving forward, right? So that's kind of also a little bit different, because there's a lot of techniques in angel readings. And an example is like teaching a person how to shield. We do an energy ball release. We do past life healing. So what past life healing is, it's different than like past life regression. It's like, say if you have an abnormal fear of water, what we would do is start getting rid of that fear in the now, because something happened in this life form that you're afraid of water. But then, you're okay with it now, but you still have lingering thoughts. So then we kind of go back into your past to see where that fear of water came from.
And that's all done during the angel reading?
Can be, yeah. So, but that's where those questions come in, is, okay, what technique do I need to help you with to remove that fear? Because if I moved it from the past, doesn't mean I got rid of it in the future, or got rid of it in the moment, right? Like, I got it rid of it in the future, I got rid of it out of your past then, but you still had that trauma that in the now. Right? So that's kind of where that's partly why there's those questions, is like, okay, what's the best way to help you to move forward, right?
And I love that, to have like an interactive experience, because I've had readings with you too, and I would always look forward to them because they were so much fun, and like so much insight and healing always came through. And Troy's Baba always popped in. Never
Yeah.
met her, but she always came in and said hi. It's kind of
Yeah.
funny.
Well, and it was, well, if you're okay with me sharing this, is so I do those year in reviews, year in views, right? And you got one and Troy got one, but I intentionally did yours on different dates, and I didn't do them back to back because I didn't want things thinking repeat or whatever. But what I found interesting, because you were in the process of getting married, but what was interesting was how separate they were. But then when your union happened, how much they were the same, and I intentionally, and because of that, that's why I didn't want to repeat the process thinking, oh, it's just copy or whatever. But it was and I found that interesting.
Yeah, I did too.
Because like I said, I purposely didn't want to do them on the same day.
Yeah, it's really cool to go back and read those after like the year has passed. And you're like, oh my, like this, like it was so good.
Yeah.
Yeah.
They're my favorite readings that I love doing those.
The
They
year
are
in
my
review?
favorite year in view readings. Yeah.
That's great.
Yeah.
Yeah, you've done one of those for me as well, and it was so fun to like follow it through the year.
Yeah,
Yeah.
I enjoyed that. You know what would be fun? Like, you wouldn't necessarily have to do that at like New Year's. I was thinking like your birthday time, because that's
Yeah.
like kind of your zodiac wheel starting. You could gift that to yourself.
Yeah.
Do a year in view for your birthday.
Yeah.
Maybe I should do that.
Yeah, like it's fun. And see that, and like that's where I've been for creativeness, is like this past year I did a calendar. So I did like a generic calendar where everybody got messages. So what I did was I basically went into meditation, asked what angel wanted to come every month, and then I would channel a message for that month. So that's what I call a generic one, right? So generic one is everybody can receive the messages, but they're essentially the same. But then what I also did then is people who wanted it, it's like customized it, where those channeled messages were directly just for you. But I put them in a calendar form, right? So it was just like you have the calendar now with those messages right on your calendar.
That's a great idea.
Yeah.
Rhonda, do you ever like do a year in view for yourself? Can you read for yourself? Or is it more muddled?
When I first started, I would read for myself.
Mm-hmm.
But I'm finding as more as I do it, and this is where its ego comes into play. Yeah. I'm going, okay, am I actually reading for myself and thinking this is what I want to happen or whatever? I personally don't read cards for myself. I channel a lot. And with channeling, it's automatic. Like I do automatic reading. And this is something that I teach, is because a lot of people don't know. I say one of the best places to start is channeling. If people really want to connect with their angels, because they can start seeing the different voices. So I always start with like a certain question, and I make it simple initially. What am I going to do today? So then I teach people, it's like, hey, now write out what you want to do today. And then I'll say, okay, let's bring in Archangel Michael. Ask what he wants you to do today. And then I'll bring in Joe. I'll usually do 4, and then
4 questions or 4 archangels?
4 archangels for 1 question.
Oh, okay.
Or sorry, 4 responses. So it's always your response and then 3 different archangels.
Okay.
And then you start to seeing those voices. saying, oh, this is Archangels Michael's voice. This is Ariel's voice. And this is whose ever voice. You know, and sometimes I'll just call on a random, like, what does my guardian angel want me to know? You know, like, and I think the more you do it, the more connection you get with the archangels, where you're like, oh, I can call them by name.
Yeah, it's just practice and like practicing that muscle. So when you say you hear them, or like is clairaudience, like is that your strongest, Claire, would you say, or?
Clairaudience and feeling.
And feeling, okay, cool.
Yeah, feeling it, like, because I think it was with you, Amanda, where was it your dad that had the knee problem, and all of a sudden my knee started aching?
Yes.
Yeah.
I forgot about that. That's right.
Yeah, like I'll get those sensations, you know, like, and sometimes it drives me nuts. Like, so for instance, my cousin's husband works on the radio, and he was talking about he's had gout or whatever. So, and I didn't know what gout was, so I looked it up. Well, it was the worst thing I did, because all of a sudden my feet started aching like crazy.
Oh
no. So like if a spirit comes through to you and they show you how they die, are you feeling that too?
Sometimes.
Yeah.
Sometimes, yeah. Like, I just did a reading. I was at an expo, actually. And traditionally at expos, I don't do mediumship, but every once in a while, I'll do one. But they were choking. Like, it was like they were choking. And I was like feeling that choking, like, because they were choking on their, the blood. And that's kind of, you know, and I was like, and they're like, yeah. And then, you know, and then once I was able to, my choking stopped or whatever. But like sometimes I'll start coughing in the middle, and I know I'm coughing for a reason.
Yeah.
Or, you know, like.
Yeah, I usually feel like something in the heart or like the arm, like it's somewhere on my body. And then as soon as I can connect that dot and acknowledge it, then it goes away.
Yes.
Yeah.
Same.
No, it's really interesting how they can like really play with your physical.
Yeah, I've had sometimes where I had to tell them like, hey, I don't need to feel all this that intensely. You need to take a step back, because it sometimes is too much. Like, I get it. You died. I don't need to relive it.
Yeah.
So Rhonda, you working at that healing expo. How do you find like being in that kind of environment? And I know like, you find it like overwhelming. I think, Christy, you're probably more sensitive to that than I am. But, like, yeah, how do you find working in that environment? Like, how do you even get clear messages, like when there's so much going on around you?
One, we're very particular. Usually when we book stuff like that, we're kind of very particular in the space that we get. Majority of the times we like to, the nice thing is that majority of them have curtains. So we're able to kind of build that barrier. Usually we like to be against the wall. So we usually just, when we apply for those, we usually just trust. We tell Michael, we'll put us in the best space for us to be seen, but also for our energy protection. Then what I usually do for myself is, so we were talking about shielding before, is I will place a lead shield the moment I walk in till I get to my space. So I'm not getting like assaulted. Like, I know, like, but that's how it feels like getting assaulted with all of that energy. And then I'll lift up the lead space, clear our energy, we'll clear our space, and then kind of move forward. So like an example, when like last year we did the X, like that was a different energy, but the exhibition people were wonderful to work with. That they even gave us little privacy, like they built us privacy booths.
That's awesome.
To kind of go in the back. And it was great because people that were getting readings done, they weren't out in the open where people got to see and do anything. So with an experience like the exhibition, that was kind of one of our requirements, because the exhibition brings such different energy in general. But like when you're kind of going to, like, say, a health and wellness expo, well, people are coming into that with that intention, right? So the organizers, they're usually clearing the space anyway. So it kind of really depends on the type of expo that you're kind of going into. One expo that I just not, is like this, I forget what it is. It's the one at the Travelodge. I think it's the Psychic Fair Expo.
Fair. Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
And that one I'm interested in, but at the same time, when I go on the website, I get a really weird energy.
I would trust that.
Yeah, same. Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Yeah.
No, and it's just like, because a lot of people ask me if I would be in that, and I said, I don't know. Like, because, and I think it's not just, it's nothing, a slight against them, but I do know they put some fear-based healers in it, like, or, because there's some psychics out there that like putting fear into their work. And if that's what you're drawn to, that's what you're drawn to, right? Like, because that's the thing with this type of work. You take what resonates, even though I say stuff like, an example would be like past life. If that doesn't resonate with you, leave it at the door.
Mm-hmm.
Like, you take what resonates with you and let the rest go. And that's probably how I view it, like, kind of going back to the Catholicism. It's like, take what resonates with you, and what you don't agree with, that's okay. And that's with the same line of work. Like, not everything is going to land with you, or, because I say one thing doesn't mean that it's law, right? This is just what I believe and what I teach.
Yeah, and like that's a good message for everyone who's getting the reading. Like, if you don't like something, take what resonates, leave the rest. Of course.
Yeah. I've had that happen before, where I was just like, what? I was like, I don't know, that doesn't really sit right. And then you just leave it. And I know maybe in some of my healing sessions, something didn't resonate with them. And it's just your own awareness, and you just learn as you go.
With that being said, a lot of times it may not resonate. I get a lot of messages that like, oh, well, that didn't resonate with you. But then the more that they think about it, they're like, oh, yeah, that actually did happen. Or, right? Because like sometimes what they're telling you could happen 40 years ago, or like, you're not like, how, like, you don't remember every piece of your life.
Yeah, that's very true. Or even like, I've had like spirits come through and they don't connect with them at all. And then after, they're like, oh my God, why didn't I think of it? That was my Uncle Joe. And it's like, oh, okay. It's like, I wasn't just channeling a random spirit. It's like, it was actually someone that you knew. It's almost like when you're in a reading, kind of like you're excited, and sometimes you're not thinking straight, like the client.
Yeah.
And then afterwards, the clarity comes through and you're like, oh, okay. Yeah. So that's why it's always good to write it down. I know Amanda does this. I don't. I got to get better, but after reading, write it all out, because you will forget it. Or do you offer will people, can they record the session?
If they choose to record, I always let them, because to me, it's their reading.
Yeah, that's a great idea. Yeah.
Right. Unfortunately, it's not really a service I can provide anymore. Like, not the recording, but like, I wish there was a thing like a tape record, like
the Long Island medium. Yeah.
Oh, yeah.
I mean, everyone can record on their phone now, right? Like, it's easy enough.
Yeah, but no, the way I feel is just like, this is your reading. It's like, if you want to take notes, or if you want to record, absolutely. Like,
Rhonda, like, have you ever been in a situation, just like I'm thinking about Teresa now with the Long Island medium, have you ever been in a situation like maybe you're out for dinner, you're at the expo, and like someone kind of walks past you and there is like a direct ping that there is a message that needs to be delivered. Does that ever happen? Do you deliver
That happens
it?
lots.
You just keep living your life and like go away? Like, do you feel like you should deliver it?
Okay, so ethically, no. You should never go up to anybody and give them a reading without their permission.
Right.
Or whatever. However, so an example is, okay, so I do the odd time, unfortunately, I haven't been able to do them in a while, because I would do Facebook Live. And every once in a while, I'll get like a message from somebody, like, you need to reach out. You need to reach out to her. So because of the Facebook Live, I don't feel like I won't just outright give a message if they're not asking for it, but I will reach out to them saying, I have somebody that is coming through that would like to give you a message. If you are interested, just let me know. And I always let them know that I'm not charging, because I don't want them to feel like I'm reaching out to get business. Like, yes, this is a business, like, and that's, kind of one of the misconceptions. People think if you have this gift that you shouldn't charge for it, but that's a misnomer. But at the same time, is sometimes people need to hear messages that they can't, they're not doing it. So the way I operate is, especially if a spirit has really pushed me, because I'm like, a lot of times I'll make that, like, spirit, you need them to come to me if you want that message, right? But then, and then this is going when I like trusting my guides, I will reach out to a person saying, I have a message for you. If you're interested, please contact me. But this is a free service that I'm providing if you're interested in doing so. Right? So then it's basically back into their court. Because to me, I don't care. If they come out, they come out. They're not, they're not. And the reason why I stress that it's free is because I don't want them to thinking I'm soliciting business to give them a message.
Yeah. Can you give us an example of one that you've had?
Yeah, this one mother, she really, really wanted her daughter to get the message. She was like going through a very emotional, hard time with her passing, and she was feeling really alone. But even though she believed in this stuff, she really didn't really have the finances to afford a reading or anything like this. And that's when spirit, or like my guides, told me, you need to reach out. Well, and she was so grateful that I did, because she said, she goes, I just don't have the luxury to afford, to get readings. Not that she didn't want one. Then what ended up happening, she was telling everybody.
Right.
So,
yeah.
But you just can't go up and drop these bombs on people, because they may not be ready to hear it, or they may not even want to know, or they may not believe, because even though if a person doesn't believe that there's, like a mediumship, doesn't mean that their loved ones aren't going to be by their sides, right? Like, that's even with the angels. You have to ask permission. Like, even though we're gifted with them, they won't work on our behalf of free will unless you give them permission to.
And that's a very important thing to note. If you want help from the archangels, from your guides, you need to ask for help. That's it. They can't intervene with your free will unless you ask for help. And you can ask as much as you want, right? There's never a run out of this. You only get 3 questions. No, it is not like that at all. Like, ask all the time.
Yeah, I ask for parking spaces.
Yeah, yes. I'm going to the mall. Same here.
Yeah. And it's funny, like I tell Troy about the angels, and he's like, well, I don't want to bother them. And I was like, no, this is like what they're there for. And even like a story happened yesterday. So Troy's working out of town and he has a flat tire. and he couldn't change the tire, and nobody in the mine had an air compressor, which was hard to believe. So this has been going on for 3 days. He's been asking people, trying to figure this out because he wants to come home like tonight. And I was like, okay, Archangel Michael, can you please help Troy find an air compressor and fix a tire? So then this morning, one of his coworkers this was yesterday. One of his coworkers had some spray to loosen the nut, and then he went out and he helped Troy, and they got the tire off and they fixed it. And I was like, awesome. I was like, thanks, Archangel Michael. And then this morning, Troy met a guy and was like, hey, I heard you need an air compressor. I was like, there we go.
Wow. Amazing. Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yep. And then being gratitude when it happens.
Yes.
Because and the reason why gratitude is so important when it happens, because it's not for them to acknowledge, but acknowledging that you trust the messages that you're getting, right? Because a lot of people will feel like with the angels, oh, they're not listening to me. It's like, no, you're not listening to them. They're giving you the solutions. They're giving you the messages.
You're just not listening.
You're just not listening, or you're not acknowledging that it has happened, right? Like, it's like, oh, okay, thank you.
Yeah. Like I heard a story from this one podcast where she connects with the angels, and I think it was in a dream, and she went to one room and there was and the angel was working in this room, and there was all these stacks of paper, and she's like, what's all this? And they're like, well, this is all the requests coming in. And then she's like, oh, wow, okay. And then she went to the room down the hall, and it was an empty room, and the angel was just sitting at the desk. And they said, this is the room where we get thank yous and gratitude. And there was not a whole lot.
Yeah, it's a good reminder, because I know when it's like 1 a.m. and my son won't go back to sleep, I'm like, please help me. And I truly feel like they are. And I know I lay in bed, I'm like, oh, but it is a really good reminder to always make sure just to give thanks after. And practicing gratitude is a great way to just raise the vibration anyway.
Yep, that's right.
So yeah, because gratitude is something that I think I've always done. I don't necessarily religiously write it down, but I've always been thank you, please. And I feel like that's part of where my faith and really optimism comes from, is through gratitude.
Yeah, that's a great practice.
Essential.
Yeah, yes.
Because it does really help you get through the tough times as well. And it creates solutions as opposed to focusing on the problem.
Yeah, that's right. Just expanding the perspective and realizing what you're grateful for in that moment of feeling crappy.
Yeah. And a lot of times working with the angels, they will push you out of your comfort zone and take you outside of that box. Yeah. That is one thing that I have found.
But that's where the magic and the growth happens. When I'm pushed and I was just at the point where I want to cry and I don't want to do something like that Instagram live I did, and you end up doing it and you're like, that was amazing. And you just you're like, oh, why did I give so much pushback? And
well, that's where that trust part comes in, right? You just have to trust.
Yeah.
Yeah. And you that's where change also in growth comes in, is through the uncomfortable moments as well.
Yeah.
Which is a good thing.
And speaking, sorry.
No, I was going to say, I like the idea, get comfortable with the uncomfortable.
Yeah. That is such a good saying. And speaking of uncomfortable, have you ever had to deliver a really uncomfortable message to somebody before?
Oh, all the time.
All the time.
All the time. And that's when I will kind of preferences to be hey, you're probably might go in a little bit deeper. The majority of the time, I don't think I'd anybody actually ever refuse it.
Yeah.
But I will preference it. Going, hey, you may not actually like it. But there is some that have come for readings, and there's a little bit of pushback with it. They don't necessarily like what I have to say because they're kind of stuck in what they need to hear. Like, like they have a plan, they're going to do the plan regardless, even though the angels are telling them to take a little, they're not saying abort the plan, but you need to pivot or whatever. And they're like, no, I can't do that. I can't do that. And that's where the free will comes in. And I'm just saying, I'm just giving you the messages, So I've had a couple of people that were disappointed in their readings, but I think they were wanting everything to be like, oh, happy-go-lucky, everything's good, everything's well, So like the angels, like I said, and that's the thing with the angels. So the way that the angels work too, even they're your angels that are communicating, but they're communicating with my angels because my team knows me best how to receive those messages. But the actual messages are your team. So they know you best. So if you need that push or that, like, if I'm lovey-dovey to you and you're not going to do it, they're not going to give me lovey-dovey messages. They're going to get, like, you're going to get those blunt messages, So that's the thing. Like, yes, everything's love and light, but the way they present themselves sometimes ain't so love and light, right? Like,
Yeah. Yeah, they know best, and I always trust that. But I've had experiences where I've been asked hard questions and I'm like, oh, I panic in that second, like, oh man, what am I going to do? And then all of a sudden the words start flowing out of my mouth and I know the angels are helping me at that moment. I'm like, Thank you. You got my back.
Yeah.
Yeah. And, I also find like, especially same thing, like when we do a Reiki session and I find, was that good? Are they disappointed with, maybe the session today because it wasn't what they had hoped? It's like they are getting exactly what they need in that time. And it's again with trusting too, right? Like they are getting what they can handle and what they need to hear in this moment. And maybe, if they come back again, maybe it'll be the timing where they get the message they needed to hear then.
Yeah. And sometimes they will need to hear that message 3 or 4 times before they'll actually do it.
Mm-hmm.
Yes.
Right? Like, and I know for an example, I'm just going to use my dad. Like, so I traditionally do not recommend with, especially like close ones that you do readings for, like every once in a while, fine, right? But traditionally they shouldn't be your go-to person. But when I was practicing, the same message kept repeating for my dad over and over. And I'm like, he is going to get angry one of these times. But he's the type of person that needs to hear it 3 or 4 times before he gets it.
Yeah.
Right? But that the angels knew that.
Mm-hmm.
Right? So they were going to keep giving him the message until it happened. But that's where that fun stuff is. They know you best, right? Like some people they need to hear it 3 times before, that's just their sign to the universe. Like, where it's like, oh, it's not a coincidence anymore. Well, I don't believe in coincidence, but it's like, oh, that's not a coincidence, or that, like, and because that's the thing too, is like with an angel reading, like a lot of people go to readers, more for like future stuff or whatever. I like to say, not that it won't happen, because a lot of times I feel like it does, but with an angel reading, you're kind of doing more in the now and a little bit in the past, so you can have, to create the life that you desire for your future. So they're like more about removing blocks, removing that type of stuff.
Rhonda, I wanted to ask if someone was trying to like attract in a relationship, what archangel should they work with?
Okay, first work in with Archangel Jophiel. Because you want to work with yourself first to get the person that you want to attract.
I 100% believe that.
Because you will keep attracting the same person. You're thinking you're getting out of an abusive relationship, for example, but then you end up in another one, the worst one. It's because that is what you're naturally vibrated towards. So you gotta work with yourself and define what it is that you want in a relationship and how you're going to be treated and such. Then after that, like once you've kind of done your self work, you gotta work with Archangel Samuel and Jophiel. Because so Jophiel is the love angel, Samuel is the finder. You know, so one of the best, funniest examples is I was working with a client and she hates grocery shopping. She usually orders her stuff online, and she goes, "You know what? I needed to go to the grocery store, and normally I would have put in an order." But she goes, "Oh, like I needed to go." Well, that's where she ended up meeting her boyfriend, right? Like, but had she just done what she typically had done, you know, she didn't. I don't even know how they met, but that's how she told me that they met. But she just listened to that inner voice. But you know, so yeah, those are like when you're bringing in those types of relationships. That's exactly who you want to do. Bring in.
And sorry, so you also mentioned your booklet about working with the angels. So would this kind of stuff be in there? Do you want to just talk about that book and where they can find it? And
sure. You can actually find it on Amazon. Like I know it's Divine Guidance. A journal of self-connection with the angels.
Awesome.
So what it is, you work up with up to 20 angels, and you kind of just sit with it, meditate with it, ask Archangel Michael or whoever you want to work with to come in. And how does he come to you? Like, do you feel him in the back? Do you feel him in the front? And like I have guiding questions, and then I ask, okay, what symbols do you see when you're related, working with him? And then where do you feel him? What color do you see? And then actually working with them in channeled messages. What is it that you want me to know? Or having that problem.
I love that. I love how you're working with them to create their own roadmap with like the signs, because like you could read a book and it could be like, this is the color, this is the gemstone, like be really rigid. I've had that happen, and I'd be like, well, I'm seeing blue, but the book's saying I should see pink. But it's like, it's our own experience. And I like how you could create that roadmap with that book.
Yeah. And it's a personal experience, right? Like, because like you said, even though traditionally Raphael may come in green to most people, the odd one might get pink.
Yeah.
And that's okay. And that's what you kind of want to do. Like I said, and that's why it's a personal connection with it, right? Yeah. Like your symbol. But the nice thing is, the more you work with them, the more signs and symbols you're going to get differently with them.
Yeah.
Because that's one thing that I did when I took the advanced class, was you kind of learn more one-on-one personal with them. So what I did was I worked with one angel a week intensely. And then every once in a while, I not necessarily give myself a break, but just so I could start identifying which angel I'm working with, because like in my readings, I can say, okay, Archangel Gabriel wants to talk to you, or this message is directly coming from this angel, right? And like people are like, well, how do you know that? And I said, well, because I could feel them on my body, or they're like this or whatever. So the nice thing with having it writing down, it gives me that bank of how to do it. But I also feel like I made it simple enough where people can create that personal bond with them, and they have a reference place to put it in, right? So the more you work with them, the more messages that you're going to get. Like my initial experience with Michael to my Michael now is two different things, but it's just building, right? It's building that relationship, friendship, right? The longer you know and the more you have, the better. Like the more intense, or not intense, but the mutual respect.
Well, yeah, it's like a friendship. You can't just talk to your friend once a month and get to know them. It's like, no, you need to nourish that friendship on both
Yeah.
ends and get to know each other.
That's a great
Yeah.
way to put it. Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. So and that's how come, because that was like a lot of my questions from my clients is like, well, how do I connect? How do I know? Those are the messages. And that's where I think like the journaling is very important. And it doesn't take a lot of time. Like it can take a lot of time, I don't think. But the nice thing is when you start, right? Like I have a page where you literally color, here's your front, here's your back. Like where do you see it? Like where, and then you just color that color with them.
That's
Right.
neat. I like that.
Yeah. And so, and I use the same thing when I'm working with spirit, kind of the same concepts with it. So,
How to navigate who's coming in and like,
yeah.
Yeah.
Right. So, but it's a skill, right? It takes practice. It takes dedication. You know, like even though we're all born with it, you know, it's just like a hockey player. Like everybody can play hockey, but not everybody's going to be a Wayne Gretzky.
Yeah, that's
You know?
exactly it. That's a great way to put
But
it.
I suck at playing hockey, but I can play it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
You know.
And are you still offering like one-on-one course training?
Right now, yes, it is over Zoom. Unfortunately, I love Zoom, but I hate Zoom.
Yeah, no, I know I like in person but honestly, like I just took my master's over Zoom and it was just as wonderful as if she was sitting in the room. So
Yeah.
nothing to be weary about doing a distant session.
No,
honestly, it's just as good.
And truthfully, especially when it's the initial, I tend to really like doing it over the phone, where I don't even see them. And the reason for that is I know that 100% of the messages are coming through the angels. I'm not reading body language. A lot of times, what a lot of people don't, and it was, I think you, Amanda, that you realized in about our second or third one. I a lot of times don't even look at the client when I'm reading. I'm often looking like I'm facing you, but I'm looking at more on the left side.
Yeah.
Right. Because I don't want to, because part of me is because I'm empathetic, so I can read body language for the most part pretty accurately. So I don't want to get those messages crossed. Going, oh, she's not liking the reading, when really you might be just processing it different, or you know, or thinking about what it is. So I do find a lot of my readings really best are over the phone. But I love the human interaction of it. So that's where the expos have been nice, and like getting out to the expos because they are one-on-one. But because of kind of my living circumstances at the moment, it's just too hard to do one-on-one home readings.
Right.
At it, right? So, but I'm hopefully over the summer that I can start offering them, because I know I am missing out on clients that like that one-on-one, but they don't want to come to an expo. And the expos are more snippets and highlights. Like we really can't get in depth in the expos, right? Because they're just designed, like they're 15 minutes.
Yeah.
And we can touch a lot on it, but we can't really get into the meat and potatoes of it, right? So
I know the last time I was at an expo, I actually like connected with the reader there, and we just booked an appointment to do a reading away from the expo on our own time, so we could have like an hour and have an actual full reading.
Yeah.
Are you is there any expos like coming up that you're part of?
Yeah, there's the Intrinsic Lotus that's coming up on June 17th. It's at Central Avenue.
Okay.
Yeah, from 10 to 5. And then I'll be doing the Fringe for the first 5 days. Our tent will be there for the 10 days, but I'll be at the Fringe for the Thursday, Friday, Saturday, Sunday, and then at the exhibition.
Oh, you're gonna be there again. Awesome.
Yeah. It was a fun experience. And then I'll be out in PA again in September.
September. Oh, okay. Yeah, I think I seen that. I follow that page. I forget
Oh,
what it's
okay.
called. Yeah.
Yeah. It's a wonder. You guys should really go out there. It's a wonderful event.
Yeah, I do want to check
And
that one out. Maybe we should do a
yeah.
road trip.
Yeah, that'd be
Yeah.
fun.
But you guys should even have a booth out there. Like, because what you guys are offering is very unique and very, it's just different. And they would like, PA is a very spiritual, like holistic community.
My Akashic record teacher, she's actually lives in PA.
Yeah.
And she does really well there.
Yeah. Yeah. It's just the community that, kind of open to the spiritual aspect of it. But it makes sense, right? Because it's a higher indigenous community.
Yeah.
And they're more open to it.
Rhonda, we wanted to share our profound experiences that we've had with you.
Oh, I would love to hear it.
Yeah.
Do you want to go first, Christy, or?
Yeah, you go ahead.
Okay.
Yeah.
So I don't even know if I really told you this, but hopefully I did. So I remember the very first time I had a reading with you. I believe it was back in like 2018. So like 5 years ago. And
Yeah,
I was going through a pretty major shift at the time. So I was kind of like looking for guidance, which was perfect to get an angel reading, like where am I at? Where do I go next? And am I going to be okay kind of a thing? And when we were sitting in that reading, somebody came through, and this is a really good example of take what resonates and leave what doesn't, but always journal it. So when we were sitting there, you're like, there's somebody who's coming through. You're like a Colin, and you were spouting out a couple names like that. And they're like, and they died from a drinking and boating accident. And I was like, no, I have no one like that. And just, you kind of like left it alone. But I still journaled it because I thought it was interesting. And then 2 years ago, I met my now boyfriend and partner. And on our second date, I was actually giving him Reiki. What a second date. And we were talking, I don't even know how this got brought up, but all of a sudden he started talking about his friend Colton that had died in a drinking and boating accident. And I literally, like, the wind got taken out of my lungs. Like, I just could not believe it. And I immediately thought of our session together, and I thought, holy shit. Like, I was meant to meet you. There was a message that was supposed to be delivered because they knew we were going to meet. I'm even getting chills right now, and it's just like, I am breaking in goosebumps. Yeah, like I just knew I was supposed to meet Todd and that he was my person. Like that moment, I just thought, I am right where I'm supposed to be, and this is so special. And we even named our son, like his middle name was Colton. Like it's just so profound to us that I would have that and that would come through. And I'm so glad I journaled it because I, of course, flipped back through my journals and I found that. And I showed him, I'm like, I'm not making this up. I know this is really weird. And it was such a moment. Like it was wild.
Okay, so can I share? So what the message that I'm getting from you right now is because if I recall that session, you were kind of looking for somebody. Were you not? Like you were kind of.
Yes.
And he's telling me that he is the one that brought you guys together.
Yeah, I truly believe that.
So that is why he came through. Mm-hmm. That's bizarre. Like that's even blowing my mind at that moment. Yeah. Because like I said, so this is where that self-doubt, like this is kind of a teaching message with your audience is, so even though it may not resonate with you in that moment, that's okay. You just leave it. But those messages are meant for you at that moment or in time. But we may not even know. But even as the person giving the message, like I could have sat there and just being drowned, like just being like, oh, I suck at this, or I'm not like, or anything like that, where it's just like, you just got to trust the messages that you're supposed to get, that you're going to get. May not resonate, but eventually in time it will.
Yeah.
But thank you for sharing that because, yeah, that's awesome.
It was, yeah.
I love when like stories come full circle. Like I've had that stuff happen. You're like, and then you connect the dots and you look back and you're just like mind blowing at that
Yeah.
moment. And then you build that trust again in that in the universe and the angels, and you're just like, wow. I just love it. I love that
Yeah.
stuff so much.
Yeah.
Yeah, I know. I could talk about the angels all day. I'm working like this is truly my passion, and I just love doing it. Now, had I been told I was going to do this 5 years ago, I laughed in their faces. I was like, "Are you kidding me?" No. You
Yeah,
know?
and I think back to those 5 years, like when we all first met, and like watching your journey and how far you've come is just like amazing.
It is.
Well, yeah, and you guys actually would have been like truly one of my first paid clients.
Wow.
You
How
know.
cool is that? And look at us
Yeah.
now, right?
I
Like,
know. Well, I know, and like you're the one who really got me started on my journey when we were.
Yeah.
So I guess another story, like when you were reading cards, you're like, we need to practice, and we need to practice right now. Like not even, we'll do it
I
later.
wasn't giving you time.
No, then that's where the angels were really pushing, right? But in a really loving way. Just like if she leaves without trying this, like it's not like she needs to do this now.
Yeah.
And then my
Yeah, 'cause
friend
we
bought
pulled
me.
cards, didn't we? Like
Yes,
we
we
pulled
did.
cards right then and there, and you were giving me messages.
Yeah. And then my friend actually ended up gifting me a deck, which is weirdly how they say it happens. And the rest just kept flowing and doors opened and I kept walking through and it's been a really awesome journey.
Yeah, well, even with decks, like I didn't even like I said, I've always just connected, right? I didn't use the decks, but I remember sitting at the class and I'm going, okay, like what would if I'm doing this business, what decks do I need? And she just kind of listed off, and I'm like, oh my goodness. Well, honestly, alignment, right?
Mm-hmm.
So I had a gift card to Indigo's for whatever, $50, 20. But at the theater, I had racked up points for service awards or whatever, right? But you could turn those points into a gift card. So I bought myself a Indigo gift card or whatever. So I went to Indigo, looking at their decks. They had a sale kind of, but it was like a sale that they never really put on or had or whatever. Buy 3, get the 4th free or whatever, or something to that. Go take the deck. I hear order online. So I went home. I went online. I got, honest to God, all of my decks that I needed to start my business virtually for free.
wow.
Because I used my gift cards. I think I paid like $20 and I got like 10 decks of cards. Now, cards, people who are like, cards are between $20 and $30.
If not more, really.
If not more, exactly. Yeah. But online, they were like almost half the price that they were in the store. Plus, they were still honoring the sale that they had, right? Like it was like buy 2 get 2 free, or get the 4th thing. Like it was just an alignment. And like that's where it was like everything was being aligned.
That like divine guidance and how it's so cool how you listen to those pings too and you follow them. Like, oh, okay, go home, go online. It's like, well, that's weird. But then you did it and then look what happened. Yeah. Your trust in the universe is like something I really admire.
Yeah. And that's something that I had always done, like ever since I was little. Because like I was a black sheep in the family and as a kid, but I was an old soul. And I kind of knew that. So I was okay with being different. And I really, didn't necessarily care what other people thought of me. But like a lot of work that I had to get done, which ended up like, and that's kind of where that past life healing and stuff took place, is my self-worth, right? Like I had very low self-esteem, even though I probably didn't represent that. But that's to me where the cause is with a lot of people. It's really their self-worth.
Yeah, that's where a lot stems from. Even like myself and my own journey. It's just like if I don't think I'm deserving of something, but I want something, how's the universe supposed to line that up. Like attracts like. So it's just like raising that vibration and falling back in love with yourself. And then that's like when the magic starts happening.
Yeah.
Yeah, like some of my sessions with you, I was writing some of them down because they all like kind of blend together. And I have like I do write some of it down, but I have like 10 notebooks with like a grocery list, and then you flip the page, it's angel reading. So it's like just a mess.
Yeah.
But yeah, some of the stuff that like stuck out was you connected with my uncle that passed, my uncle David. And that's when we were planning the wedding. And you said that he was going to come through and he was going to make himself known in a way. And he was a jokester. So I was like, oh, what's he going to do? And, you know, I kind of forgot about it on the wedding day. And we rented speakers, and they were cutting in and out, and it was really annoying. And I was like, oh, that's Uncle David. So that was really neat when that happened.
And the nice thing is you forgot about it. So you weren't like questioning everything that you were getting.
Yes.
Right. You know, and when it happened, you knew.
Yeah. Cause when you get a reading and you're looking for that sign, it's almost like you're pushing it away. I feel like when I forget it and that surrender, that is when it comes.
Yeah.
But sometimes that's hard to do.
And then people are like looking for it then.
Yeah. Right? Yeah. Looking around every corner. And then they get the sign and then they question it. It's like, and your spirit guides are probably like, okay, what do you want from us?
Yeah. Yeah.
And yeah, with Troy's Baba, like Troy's gone for readings and his Baba would always come through. And I'm pretty sure that's a spirit guide for Troy.
Oh, it definitely is. Because I don't think there's ever been a reading that he hasn't come through.
Yeah, she's always like right there. And even when I do Reiki on Troy, she comes in right away. And the one time I kind of like, I wasn't annoyed, but I was kind of like, hey, I'm busy here. And she's like, well, are you going to tell him I love him? Like, tell him. And I was like, okay, I'll let Troy know. And Troy, like, maybe I'm oversharing for Troy, but it's just like, he gets super emotional. Like, cause you can just like see that deep connection in his heart with her. And it's so beautiful. Yeah. And I had a reading with you and it was just Rhonda and I, and then Baba came through. I've never met her and she just like, hey, so it's just cool to show like that they're always there and they're hanging around and they're curious about what's going on in your life. And yeah it's really neat.
That's the comforting thing that, you know, because you think, oh, are they going to miss out? They're not going to miss out.
Yeah.
They're always with you. And if you need them to make you know that they're there, they'll do something.
Oh, yeah. Yeah. I've had those.
Going like, okay, you're here.
Yeah. Which is just, I love that. I love that part of it. And even that year in view, there was one thing that you wrote on there. I'm not going to share exactly what it was, but it was something about a decision that Troy and I would have to make, and it's going to be a very difficult road. And I was like, oh, whatever. I was like, I already know what I want to do. And like looking back, my journey from that year till a decision I made this year, it was freaking hard. Like probably the hardest thing I've ever gone through. And I was like, Rhonda nailed that. And it all made sense like 4 years later. So.
Well, and that's the thing. Like some of those messages that you think are now, they're meant like they're later down the road. Right. And sometimes they tell me that, sometimes they don't. It's just like, you know, and that's like with Amanda, with that Colton coming through. Right. Like I wouldn't have known, you wouldn't, like, you're like, no, that's not it. But, you know, 4 years later, 5 years later, it's like, oh, that's why they came through. Right.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. And is that why, like, they don't have concept of time on that side? Is that why this happens? Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. But I'm guessing maybe that message is you're going to find somebody, right? But we shut it down because it didn't resonate.
Yep. But you wrote it down.
Well, and of course, that seems like forever. If I were to tell somebody 3 years, they'd be like, excuse me? You know,
yeah,
like. But
even in your subconscious, you knew that message because you took it home to write it down.
Yeah. And it's funny that it like really stuck with me.
Yeah. Yeah, and then that's the same, like you said, like with the way you do, Christy. No, I bet you, Christy, if you that's your way of the angels communicating with you, because I bet you all of a sudden you'll turn to a page and you were meant to see that at that time.
Yep.
You know, like it's just they know your method of how they're going to communicate with you. Where if you're thinking you're organized or whatever, right? Probably would go back and try to look for it. But I bet you get a ton of messages that way. You know, just by opening it up and going, oh, okay. Like I bet you even on your grocery list, you probably wrote something maybe in the side of your journal going, oh, why did I write that? But then all of a sudden you come back to it going, oh, okay.
Yep, that's so true. And that just is proof that looks or how well the angels know me and how I operate.
No. Yeah. So there really is like one true tried and method on how to connect. It's just you do you.
Yep. You create that roadmap yourself as you go. And that's just part of the journey. It's fun. Like none of this happens overnight.
No. Mm-hmm. Well, even the way that your podcast started, like that was amazing. You know, like it was
amazing.
Yeah. I kind of knew I was going to be on your podcast because I heard you're going to be on the podcast.
No way.
Yeah. And then the next day I got a message from Amanda saying I was interested in to be on the podcast. I'm like, absolutely. Like, you know, and I feel honored to being like here, but also like seeing your guys' journey and like coming together and stuff. Like, it's amazing. You know, like I feel privileged to be part of this and then actually being part of like your first guest. Like, I just love it so much. And it's just talk about full circle because like I said, you guys were essentially my first client.
Yeah.
You know, and then to hear that like of you speaking so well of me and praising me, like it's like I'm just honored.
Yeah, that's wonderful. Rhonda, do you like to just kind of end things off? Do you have a message for the collective that maybe you could share? We always end our podcast with a card pull, but we were hoping that maybe you could end it today if you would like to.
Yeah. So this message is actually coming from Archangel Jophiel. And the message that that she wants to share with you guys is be in the moment, share your love and light. Don't be afraid of who you are. And don't hide your true authenticity. You're unique and you're special. And they're just saying, like, live your truth and be authentic. Because really, essentially, that's what your podcast is about. Is just living your journey and being on your way. Like, do you.
I love that. And that it's funny, like, when we're doing these recordings and I say something, I was like, oh, maybe we should edit that out. But it's like, no, it's like, this is me and this is my authentic self. So it's just like, I'm learning that as I'm going.
And that's what people like. They like the vulnerable you.
Yep.
Yeah. Yeah. Because it's your authenticity. Like you're authentic. You're not putting on a show. You're not like, you're just being you. And that's the thing, like as this is starting to become an acceptable practice and people are being open to it, they're starting to be in the moment and living their true power and their true worth.
Yep.
You know,
and that's where the magic happens.
Yeah.
So Rhonda, where can people find you? How can they book a session?
Okay, you can go to the Wellness Center at cindysmith.com and then on the tab there's the Wellness Center and it's Rhonda Schaan. There you can also sign up we have what's called a Wellness Center group where you get newsletters. We have a virtual cafe the first Tuesday of the month. It's a free membership to sign up. You basically have to sign up, but it's free. So they might be asking for, I don't think it's a credit card, but yeah, it's a membership that they'll ask you. She has paid memberships and not, but ours is a free thing, and you save 10% by signing up. You save 10% on one-on readings as well as any classes being offered, and then we have a monthly newsletter.
Awesome. Yeah, I'll link all that in the show notes too, so people can find you easily.
Okay,
And
well,
are
I can
you
send you the links if you need.
Yeah, that'd be great.
and are you on Instagram or Facebook?
I am.
Facebook.
Facebook is Divine Guidance with Rhonda. Instagram is Rhonda AEP. I'm not very good at Instagram, but that is one of my goals. And then we're working on a YouTube channel. It's either going to be the Angel Empowerment Wellness YouTube or Wellness, or just my channel, where there's going to be like content, learning how to, connect with your angels and stuff.
Oh, that'd be
So,
awesome.
Yeah,
Yeah.
I'd really enjoy that too.
Yeah.
yeah. So, but no. And I'm just throwing this out there for you guys if you'd like. For a future podcast, we can actually experience what it is like working with the angels, where it can be an immersive experience for your listeners to do.
Yes.
And
Oh my God, I just got full body chills.
yeah.
Yeah.
So, but this is just something if you guys choose to do it or whatever. Like I said, I've just been guided to throw that out there for where your listeners can get like what it is to feel like with the different angel vibrations.
Yeah, I would love
Oh,
that.
amazing.
But yeah, so just let me know if that is of interest to you. If not, then it's not meant to be. So like I said, I'm in that process of just throwing it out and trusting.
Yep.
Yeah.
Why not, right?
Absolutely. Yeah.
Well, thank you very much.
Thank you for your time. That was so good.
Yeah, I really enjoyed that. Just being in the vibration. It was, that was great. Thank you. Thank
Yeah.
you.